Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. President Biden today addresses the nation about Hurricane Ian. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more from FEMA headquarters.
Addressing the nation from FEMA headquarters here in Washington, D.C., President Biden says Hurricane Ian could be the deadliest in Florida's history.
The numbers are still unclear, but we're hearing early reports of what may be substantial loss of life.
At least 13 people have been reported dead as of Thursday afternoon. And Biden says rescue operations have gotten underway for people who are stranded. And early on Thursday, he also approved a major disaster declaration in Florida. That means the federal government would pay for all debris removal, as well as offer loans to cover uninsured property loss and home repairs.
The federal government will provide individual assistance of $37,900 for home repairs, another $37,900 for lost property, for everything from the automobile to a lost wedding ring.
On Thursday morning, Biden also spoke with Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who's a harsh critic of Biden's economic and immigration policies. But when asked about his call and his relationship with DeSantis, Biden says,
"It's totally irrelevant, but I'll answer it, okay? In fact, very fine. He complimented me. He thanked me for the immediate response we had. This is not about whether anything having to do with our disagreements politically. This is about saving people's lives, homes, and businesses."
The FEMA administrator, meanwhile, says she's going down to Florida this week to check on response efforts. And President Biden says he's going as well, but that'll come at a time when his presence won't get in the way. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
And the Senate this afternoon passed a short-term funding bill to keep government agencies open through mid-December. However, not everyone was on board. Here's NTD's Melina Wisecup with the details.
This temporary funding bill essentially allows government agencies to operate under current funding levels through December 16th. This allows lawmakers to return back to their home states to campaign ahead of the 2023 midterm elections. Now, included in this temporary funding bill is tens of billions of dollars more in emergency money. That includes $12 billion more for Ukraine, along with another $1 billion to help American families cope with rising heating and cooling costs. Another $19 billion is designated to FEMA to help with disaster relief, such as helping to clean up after damage was caused by Hurricane Ian. Here are Senate Leader Chuck Schumer's floor remarks on the Senate floor just moments after that bill passed earlier today.
It is a great bipartisan bill that is going to help a whole lot of people, and we're keeping the government open with ample time.
Now, even though this bill did garner some Republican support, about half of Senate Republicans, 25 of them, voted no on it. For weeks now, many Republicans, such as Senator Rick Scott, Senator Mike Lee, and others, were pushing for a no vote on this because they wanted to make sure there was no extra spending attached to this bill. They also wanted to extend the clock here. So their goal was to provide a temporary funding bill that would expire in January rather than December. This way, they could wait until a new Congress is sworn in before passing the full 2023 funding bill. Under these circumstances, if Republicans were to take more seats in Congress, that would give Republicans more control over 2023 spending levels. So that was their goal here, although that was not successful, obviously, in the Senate. Now, for the same reason, Republican Whip Steve Scalise in the House is right now whipping a no vote on this temporary funding bill. But even with Republican pushback, Democrats are in control of the House, so they will easily pass this tomorrow and send it off to President Biden's desk. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
It's just 6 weeks until the midterm elections. Here's Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell commenting on the chances of the GOP taking back the Senate.
In every election, every year, this year, past years, it's great to have terrific candidates. We're in a bunch of close races. I think we have a 50-50 shot of getting the Senate back. It's going to be really, really close either way, in my view.
This comes after he drew criticism last month from those in his own caucus. McConnell downplayed his party's chances in the midterm elections, saying it would be more likely for Republicans to gain control of the House rather than the Senate. McConnell has previously criticized the quality of Republican candidates in key Senate races like Arizona and Ohio. Meanwhile, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he has not yet decided whether he will run again in 2024. Manchin doesn't always vote with the Democrats, so his support has been critical for them to pass legislation since 2020. He says he wants to see how the 2022 elections turn out before he decides about running again. And over on the House side, GOP leadership spoke about their Commitment to America plan on the Capitol building steps earlier today. Kentucky Congressman James Comer would likely be the chairman of the Oversight Committee. We had a chance to speak to him about what his priorities would be. Congressman James Comer, thank you for taking some time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Congressman, if the House GOP takes the majority as chairman of the Oversight Committee, what would be top on your agenda?
Well, we're going to focus on investigations. We're going to be the lead investigative body, and we're also going to focus on waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. But from a media standpoint, I think investigations will be very high profile. We have a lot of concerns about Biden family influence peddling all across the world. So we've requested a lot of information. We've been probing for months now, and I believe we're ready to go with what I feel like will be a very informative, high-profile committee hearing on Biden family influence peddling.
Congressman, you've expressed concern over the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party. What would be your approach to dealing with them?
Well, we feel that the Chinese Communist Party has been very cozy with the Biden family, with both Hunter and Jim. Now the question is Joe involved in that? And that's one of the reasons we're investigating the Biden influence peddling. But they're trying to take over many parts of our economy. We've already seen a concern from both parties where they've taken over the semiconductor industry, which is everything from a technology standpoint. What we've learned with Hunter Biden is they were trying to get their foot in the door with the drillers for natural gas to try to start taking over the American energy industry, and this can't stand. There's outrage over China buying farmland in the Dakotas. The most outrageous thing that I've heard is what we've uncovered in the last 2 weeks. The Biden family was working to help negotiate a deal for China to buy an interest in our drillers to control the drilling. So, these are serious national concerns, and that's why we're going to be investigating that on day one in a Republican majority.
Congressman, lastly, heading into the winter, you mentioned the cost of energy. What can be done to lower the cost for Americans?
Well, first of all, we've got to get the government off the backs of the American energy industry. We've got to make it easier to get permits. We've got to quit having so many barriers to production in the United States. When Trump was president, he had a policy that he let American energy do what it does best, and that's produce energy and provide good paying jobs. But when Biden came in on day one, he does things like cancel the Keystone Pipeline. He adds rules and regulations. He bans drilling on federal lands. He does everything he can do to harm the American energy industry, and as a result, the American consumers are having to pay more at the gas pump every day.
Congressman James Comer, thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
The Department of Homeland Security is pursuing nearly 2,000 leads of alleged war criminals, and Senator Dick Durbin told reporters that there are people who've committed war crimes who find safe haven in the United States under the current law.
We want to make it clear to war criminals around the world that the United States will never be a safe haven for them, and they are subject to prosecution in this country. Why is that relevant? Because it's a message to Vladimir Putin that the massacres at Bucha and Izium will not be forgotten, and the people who did it will be held accountable all the way to the top of the Kremlin. That, to me, is a standard of justice which is bipartisan.
They're working on updating the Justice for Victims of War Crimes Act to allow federal agencies to prosecute war criminals found in the United States. That's even if their crimes were committed outside of the U.S. and even if the victims are not U.S. citizens. There are people from around 75 countries who are alleged war criminals now living in the U.S. Homeland Security reports the actual number may be even higher than 2,000. The Biden administration is beginning the process of canceling some federal student debt. This is while the Department of Education faces a lawsuit for the plan. The Department of Education sent out an email to Americans who signed up and gave details of the process. They say they will launch a short online application for student debt cancellation in October. Meanwhile, Pacific Legal Foundation filed a lawsuit against the Department of Education for the plan to cancel student debt. The foundation says it will cost $400 billion. The The lawsuit argues that, quote, Congress did not authorize the executive branch to unilaterally cancel student debt. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.